So one of the things that I've seen people ask quite a bit about before is how do you deal with like sick days, especially because Waldorf families tend to be very low media. And we did watch some shows today. We had 3 hours of shows, so we watched 2 kid-friendly movies. We're really careful about what they watch, making sure it's age appropriate and has good messages, because we try to be very mindful of the messages that live inside of everything, and what they bring to our children, because it's all just seeds, and we want to grow flowers in their souls instead of weeds and all that good stuff. So we watched 3 hours of shows. I listened to Thornton Burgess on the audiobook. He's the one that does like Buster Bear and Joe Otter and like, I don't know, just a whole bunch of the other cute, silly, fun things. So you see I wrote it down. I made waffles with Silas. He's my little list, and we had a fun time with that. It was good for him because he needs to be able to do some things too. They need to be able to get out of, it's all about balance, especially because this is, I think, just a seasonal shift issue is what's happening in our family right now. Because as we begin to head into the autumn season, everybody's sort of energy begins to spiral inward. The earth's energy is all going in. Think about the trees with all of the sugars. It heads into their trunk and away from the leaves, then leaves drop, and we're a little bit like that too, where as we begin to spiral inward with the autumn time, maybe some of the unnecessary things in our lives begin to drop or need to drop. It's a time to begin focusing on the embers inside of us that we need to fan into life, our education and spiritual growth and those things. And also it's a time for us to begin looking outward with thanks and gratitude and service and all those things also. All the time it's good to do those things, but I think especially in the autumn we begin to see that need to nourish ourselves in those spiritual, emotional, physical ways even more, because we're shifting what we eat. We eat maybe richer foods in the wintertime, like soups and stews and things like that. We eat a little bit more meat than we usually do. In the summertime we don't do a ton of meat, but we eat a little more meat. And but things also like what else did we do? Let's see. We actually decorated for autumn time today. Sort of try and help ourselves feel like we're on track with the season and that we're joined with it. And another thing that helps with that is going for a walk and appreciating the beauties of God's nature and the beautiful energy that's there, and those wonderful creations, and sort of feeling that and letting it flow through us, and just really grounding ourselves to that good life that's there, and that's also going through the same process as us, that spiraling inward as we prepare for things like Michaelmas and Candlemas and all these wonderful festivals that we love to celebrate in Waldorf, that help us to fan those inner flames to life and keep our souls warm throughout the cold winter. So remembering things like, for us, Adam is Michael, and so things like remembering the story of Adam with Michael and Michaelmas, and also remembering for us, the plan of salvation, which is the adversary or Satan, the great dragon, being slain so that we could continue forward doing great things, and what dragons in our lives need slaying. And I think the winter time is a perfect time to do that, as we focus on academics and focus on our learning and our growth. We did handwork as well. We did sewing, something quiet that they could do. It depends on how sick you are. Really. If you're able to do those things, if your kids are a little bit antsy, something like that's great. And if not, that's okay. It's time to sit around and snuggle and read stories and listen to audiobooks and maybe even watch some shows without feeling guilty. Just be grateful. I think the trickiest part about sick days, as a mom especially, you could tell I'm sick. I'm like, as a mom especially, making sure that we're finding that balance inside of ourselves so that we find peace. And I think that's where a lot of people fall back on shows, is because they're beginning to feel tired and impatient and all those things. And instead we try to communicate about it. So I'll just be like, hey guys, I'm feeling really tired right now. I'm feeling kind of overwhelmed. I just need some quiet. And so let's all just be still for a little bit, and let's let's do something quiet together, or maybe you guys could do something quiet while I do something quiet. Finding that that peace for ourselves that we need. We did a little bit outside. You know, if somebody felt like they were up to walking around outside, they could walk outside. Like I said, my 3-year-old, again, he got a little bit antsy, and so we went and checked on the bird feeders we made the other day, and found an amazing chrysalis. It was crazy. We found it yesterday, and we thought it was dead because it was just so hard and chunky. And then he dropped it, and it started like wiggling like crazy. It was hilarious. So we gave it a new home, and I don't know. We'll see what happens with that. The other things that we do are nourishing soups and nourishing foods, and then also we like to make elderberry syrup and nettle infusions, and those are awesome. We don't drink like Camellia sinensis tea, but we drink herbal teas. And so we'll do herbal teas, warm drinks like that, nourishing food, and we don't do dairy anyways. We avoid more oils, and we don't do really a lot of refined sugars and things like that, or like I say, X meat, but we do have allergies, and so we don't do wheat. We have to be particularly mindful of what kind of flours that we're using, because a lot of the flours that are used in gluten-free cooking can become very empty, and so it's important for us to be mindful of what kind of flours we're using. So we use a lot of things like sorghum, or almond is probably our number one big one, because we've got like a lot of allergies we have to be mindful of. So I guess that's pretty much all I can think of for sick days in Waldorf, is just making sure that you are honoring your own needs as well, for rest, for quiet, for respite, because that will help us to maintain patience with our children. And also being mindful as a homeschool mom of not freaking out when we get maybe a little bit behind, or the day doesn't go quite like we'd hoped it would go, or things like that, because our expectations of ourselves can sometimes be very high, and it's like crushing when we don't meet them, because these are our children and we have to be able to nourish them our best, right? And we want to do those things, but it's okay when we have to go ahead and take a rest for a little while, because those things will catch up. It'll be okay. We'll figure it out. It's not a big deal. We even did a little bit of schoolwork today, but it was gentle and, not so much going on. And that's all right, because we also need to honor that our children need rest, and that's great. So just remember to honor that divine light inside of you. Keep that spark growing and flowing and moving and alive in the ways that you need to, even if that means a couple shows. It's probably going to be okay. That you need, so that you can stay patient, communicating with your children so they understand what's happening inside of you. I once heard that stress is when you are in one place and wish that you were in another, whether that's spiritually, emotionally, physically, mentally, all those things. And a lot of times when we're like, this is the way today is supposed to go, we're supposed to be doing math and then spelling and all these different things, and we have all these great activities planned, and now we can't do them, and so we kind of stress out because we're not where we wish we were. But instead, it's okay to just honor where we are now, and that's being present and mindful. So love and light, and I hope that you all feel better if you're sick, and that you're able to manage a great balance for your families. You find healing during your sick days, and peace and togetherness, so that you can enjoy each other's company, and also avoid those things that detract from your growth, like shows that aren't necessary or that aren't nourishing to your well-being. So peace out. Thanks so much for joining me. Have a nice day.